Greetings everyone, Ray Landis here with another guitar adventure. The adventures continue. And this adventure was totally unexpected. It really turned out to be one of the best playing guitars that I have ever played. And once again, it is a Squier. Squier has quickly become one of my favorite brands, and I never in a million years would have thought that I would favor Squier as much as I do today. I played Fender Stratocasters, and that was my brand, and I still like them. I think they're great. I mean, these really are modeled after the Fender Stratocaster. But Squier has done so much and offered so much variety to the Fender line that you really have to hand it to them. And they may need a little work when you get them. You may have to do a little TLC to get them where you want them, and you may have to build your own from Squier parts, which is what I've been doing. But you can really get the exact instrument that you've always wanted, especially if you're willing to do a little bit of the build work yourself. And Squier parts, they really do have a high quality. Well, there's somebody out there, maybe you, that thinking this guy's out of his gourd. Squier is just a cheap knockoff of Fender. But you know, I've tested it, I've tried it, I've experienced it, and I always say a man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument. So I've got the experience, and hopefully you have experienced some of the same things I have. But this guitar is a Squier from a little older era. It's not a brand new Squier. It's not one of the ones that were released here in the last few years. This one showed up on eBay, and I put it in my watch list. It was like the seller wanted like $120 some for it, and they wanted to add additional shipping, and I was like, that's a nice looking older Squier body, but I don't really want to pay that much for it. So I put it on my watch list, and it seems like it was in there for months. And finally, the price dropped down to around $80, including shipping. I guess they called it like a 30% off sale. And I hit the button, boom, and bought that one. And then I had some other parts that I was able to kind of bring together. The bridge plate is original. That's really about the only thing that's been retained from the original guitar, the bridge plate, because I put a brass block on it, and I put different saddles, and there's a different trem arm, and everything else has been built up from that body. And again, it's a Squier, and it's a gem. I'm going to show you what I did and how I did it, and kind of break down all of the things that go with it. All right, I've been collecting some parts for another parts caster,
and I just want to kind of go over these with you a little bit, show you what I've got. All right, so I've got this body that I got from eBay from a company called Squier Modders, and I had this in my watch list for a while. They wanted, I think, $120 for it, and I watched it for a while, and then the price dropped a little bit. They wanted that price with, you know, additional shipping, and I just kept watching it and watching it, and finally I kept seeing the price go down. And I really liked it because it had some nice grain, and the dark spot around the outside and the sunburst was not super big, and it didn't have the all that red in it that a lot of the sunbursts have. So I figured this would be a really nice, you know, build, really nice guitar build, and it's got, again, some really nice grain. They dropped the price down to around $80, including shipping. And I thought, wow, you know, I'm going to go ahead and snag that. So here it is, and I'm going to try to make a build out of this one. And I'll probably open it up, put a nice brass block in there. It's a little scuffed up, but it doesn't look too bad. It kind of has a vintage look. And then I'm going to put this neck on it, and this is the neck that I got from How Guitar. It's a 22 fret neck, 9.5-inch radius. It's kind of like a nitro finish. It's not glossy at all. Real smooth fretwork, and as I showed you earlier, we got this pick guard preloaded, and I thought maybe I would put this black jack boat on it, and it's going to be, I believe, a really nice build. I don't think this body is a full thickness, but I don't think it's the super thin body either. I think it's got a little bit more meat than you know, the super thin ones. It's definitely got some more weight to it. So I think this is going to make a really nice build. So this is kind of what we're going to end up with. Of course, we need to work on getting everything aligned, but I think it's going to have a really nice look to it, and I'm excited to put this one together. So the loaded pickguard on this one came from Rockin' R Guitars. It was another company I found on eBay that really does a bang-up job of putting together, you know, loaded pickguards. This one has like vintage voiced pickups. They're Guitar Madness, the GM pickups. You can buy those from a company in Florida. And this one has a 5.5K in the neck, a 5.52K in the middle, reverse wound, and then it's got a 6.46K bridge pickup, full-size pots, and very nicely wired with cloth wiring and everything. If you take a look at the way it's configured on the front, it's got a switch that is right here to be able to get all three pickups together. Instead of a blender, it's got the switch, so that ought to make for a really nice, you know, mod variation. So we're looking forward to seeing how that's going to sound. But these pickups are supposed to be really nice. They're Alnico 5, and you can tell by the back, you know, of the pick guard that they are looking pretty good. And I think that it's going to be a nice sounding guitar. Looks like there might be shielding paint in there. I'm not sure if it's conductive or not. I may or may not put some shielding tape in there, but I think I'm definitely going to do something with this bridge. I think what I'll do there is I'll take everything apart, put a brass block on to the plate, and then replace the screws and springs and the grub screws with black, so that they have a little bit of black contrast. And then when I finally get the pick guard back on, I think I'm going to use black screws in the pick guard to, you know, to set off a little bit of a contrast. screws removed. Oh, it looks pretty clean actually. I'm pretty surprised about that. Of course we have the small, very small zinc block in there. And doesn't look like it's pulled too tight, but at the same time there's a little bit of fuzz in there. We'll have to do a little bit of cleanup work. But yeah, looks pretty clean. Go ahead and take these springs out. Let's go ahead and take this bridge off. Alright, let's take a look. Actually, I mean, it's got some debris there, but I mean, overall it looks pretty clean, so that's good. So I am curious to see if this is actually shielding paint. Let's take a look and see what happens here. No continuity. Oh, there is some movement on the... You can see that there's something happening on the meter, but there doesn't seem to be any significant continuity. We're not getting any signal, so I wouldn't say that that's going to be conductive. So I normally don't do this, but in this case, because it's been exposed to some various elements, there's some hair and some different things, I'm going to disinfect the surface of this instrument before I go any farther. I'm going to use this this multi-surface disinfectant and some paper towels just to make sure that, you know, we're sanitary, and then we'll take it from there. Alright, generally speaking, that cleaner really did a nice job on this. Didn't hurt the poly finish at all. And of course that poly finish is like a plastic. It's polyester. And I don't really want to do too much to alter the real condition of it, because I kind of do still want it to look a little bit vintage. So I think even though it's polyester, it does have a nice vintage look, and we're going to go ahead and move forward with it. I'm going to take a look at the bridge, and I got the bridge out, and it looks to me like I'm probably going to go ahead and replace the screws and the springs and the grub screws and just clean up the plate and then put a brass block on it. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, here we have all of the original parts to the trem, and you can see that's very super lightweight. Here's the base plate. It looks to me like this new brass block will fit if we take, let's see, if we put, you can see that the screw holes will line up, so that's going to give me a nice brass block to put in there. It's going to make that a little nicer, and we may be able to actually get the tremolo to work and stay in tune. That's a Music Lily, and it's got some screws that go with it that are a little different than the other screws, but they look like they'll all fit. I'll clean this base plate up, and I may even use different saddles here because these saddles are kind of chewed up. You know, they do look vintage, but I think I've got some other saddles I can use here too and kind of make it a little better. So yeah, it looks good. Alright, looks like all the holes line up. You can see where the holes that the strings come through from the back are a little tiny bit malaligned, but not enough to affect it because you can get the string through. And it looks like the trem arm is going to be good. So I was able to get that bridge off and cleaned, and I replaced the bridge saddles with some stainless steel bridge saddles that I had, and I used black screws and I used black springs, and I even replaced the grub screws with black screws just to add some contrast. I had to use the original screws that fasten it to the body, and you can see this one right here was a little pitted. But that's okay. I still want it to have a little bit of a vintage look, but with a modern appeal. So far it's going good. Here's a look of the inside at the back with the brass block. This is one of my favorite remedies. This is air conditioning foam that usually comes with a new air conditioner, and it peels off, and then you can put that in here, and what that does is it keeps the springs from making any noise. Okay, so there we've got the 3 springs installed, and the foam is underneath, and everything looks like it's good. I'm not going to put the back plate on until everything's all said and done, but I'll flip it over and we'll take a look at the tremolo. Alright, the tremolo looks like it's going to be okay. Everything seems to work nicely, and we'll get some tension on the springs once we get the neck on and everything, but that looks like it's going to be good. Okay, I decided to go ahead and shield the inside of this body cavity, and hopefully that will prevent it from making a lot of noise. Okay, so I have gotten this one all put together, and the neck still needs to be installed. We have not installed the neck, so it's just kind of laying there. But everything works, and tested the pickups. Everything seems to work. And what I'll do is I'll just let you take a quick look at the back. You can see, whoops. You can see that I put the foam in there with the brass block. All right, let's get a look at it completely assembled. Everything went great with this tremolo, and it really looks good. It receives a 6mm tremolo bar, which is the thicker, larger thread one. And I like this particular bar that I have. I ordered a couple more in 3 different colors that I can use because they're beefier than the regular. Everything went great with installing the neck. We're able to get the strings aligned very nicely over top of the pole pieces, and this really went together well. If you take a really close look at it, you can tell that everything is perfectly aligned. I put 2 string trees because it just seems to have a real need for the downward pressure at the nut. The nut's been carved. It's less than 20 at the first fret. And these machine heads, well, they're really super good, but they're a little challenging to get used to because they're Wilkinson. You can see the Wilkinson logo on the back of that. But they've got a strange technique for being locking tuners. If you can take a look, you can notice that there's a hole in 2 places on each one of the posts, and you kind of have to tie them on. And the first couple times I tried, I ended up having a little bit of a challenge because I didn't tie it right on the first 2 strings and they slipped. But once I figured out what was going on with that, they actually work really well. They're super stable. They're super nice. Truss rod adjustment is right here at the headstock. And this neck is fabulous. This guitar is fabulous, and because, man, it really jams. It's got GM pickups. They're Guitar Madness. They're vintage voiced. It's got the traditional type of configuration. Well, maybe not so traditional, but the volume and 2 tones. The lower tone works the bridge pickup. The second tone, the middle knob, works both of the neck and the middle pickup, and then there's a toggle switch right here. And that toggle switch is so that if I'm either in the bridge position or in the second position, I can flip this switch and it overrides everything and brings in the neck pickup, so I can get all 3 pickups. It's not the blender like I have on some of my guitars, but it gives you that option to do something with all 3 pickups, or if you wanted to do the 2 outside, the neck and the bridge pickup. But this is a really super nice guitar.
So if you've enjoyed this content and it's inspired you to want to build them, fix them, play them, or mod them, I would ask that you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time for the next guitar adventure. Take care.